dear students, today we are going to start with our first lesson of second year prose part, and the lesson is The Dying Sun by Sir James Jeans. Basically, in this chapter, the writer has talked about the immense size of stars and planets we see in the sky, but perhaps we don't ponder upon it as much as we should. In the very first paragraph, as you see, the writer says that a few stars are known which are hardly bigger than the earth, but most of them are so large that hundreds of thousands of earths could be packed inside each and leave room to spare. Leave room to spare means there'll be space for even more. And here and there we find an immense star large enough to contain millions and millions of earths. And the total number of these huge stars in the universe is probably something like the total number of grains of sand on all the seashores of the world. Such is the littleness of our home in space when measured up against the total substance of the universe. So girls, basically in the first paragraph he has talked about two important things. First of all, he has talked about the fact that the planets and the stars we see in the sky as simple little dots are actually so very huge that if you take any one of them and you start filling them with earths, it will need hundreds and thousands of earths. They will go inside and still that will not be completely filled. Still there will be space for more. And then the second point he actually talks about over here is that their total number of such huge stars in the universe, their total number is so huge that the grains of sand on all the oceans of the universe, that is even smaller than the number of these stars. And when you look at this huge, when you imagine, when you visualize, when you try to visualize this huge mass of universe, you realize that in comparison to it, our earth is like a little dot. In the second paragraph, he talks about the great and immense distances. He says that these millions of stars are wandering about in space. They are moving, they are not static. A few of them form groups which journey in company, like galaxies, like our Earth is a part of this galaxy of our solar system, we call it. But most of them travel alone, and they travel through a universe so immense that it is a very, very rare event indeed for one star to come anywhere near to another. So guys, you can simply visualize that this universe is so immensely huge that perhaps it is beyond our imagination. Now, in such huge universe, when these millions and millions of stars usually they travel alone, and they travel at such huge distances that they hardly ever come near each other. So for the most part, each star makes its voyage. Voyage is basically journey by sea, right? But here the writer is talking about the motion of these stars in the universe, in this space. So usually all these, for the most part, each star makes its voyage in complete loneliness, like a ship on an empty ocean. So he gives this example of ship in an empty ocean to make you realize that, as you can imagine, you are well aware how huge these oceans are. So in one ocean at a time, so many ships are in motion. But you imagine that there's one huge ocean and there's only one single ship in it. Same is the case with these stars in the universe. If we make a model, like when you were in junior classes, you used to make models for science subjects, and you have been making in the senior classes in college as well, you have been participating in that model exhibitions. So if you make a model like that, in which you take stars, you represent stars with ships, the average ship will be well over 1 million miles from its nearest neighbor. From this, it is easy to understand why a star seldom is hardly ever finds another anywhere near it. So girls, in the first two paragraphs, the writer has actually talked to you about the huge size and the huge distances which are there in the universe between stars. Then he comes to another thing. He says, we believe, however, that though we know facts tell us that they hardly ever come near us, we believe, however, that some 2000 million years ago, girls, this, you see, you have to learn it by heart. How much? 2000 million years ago, this rare event took place, and that another star wandering blindly through space happened to come near the sun. Now, it so chanced, by chance it came near the sun. Sun is also a star. Just as the sun and moon raised tides on the earth. So this second star must have raised tides on the surface of the sun. So girls, you know that stars are basically burning bodies of fires, right? Molten metals and lots of things you have learned about their composition perhaps in your science subjects as well. So these tides, are you like, I hope you are aware of the tides the writer is talking about. The sun and moon raise tides. Sun raises tides, and you see in June and July, when our earth part is the closest to sun, in those days it's forbidden to go near the ocean because tides are very high and the sun is in a very violent mood. And when it comes to moon, when the 14th, that is the full moon night is there, big tides are raised. So when these, a little mass like moon, you know, is much smaller than earth. So when this little mass of moon raises tides, and they are so very powerful, so you can well imagine that when a huge star would have come nearer the sun, what sort of tides it would have raised. It raised huge tides, which we can imagine that they were like big mountains. But they would have, you see, this is what the writer comes to. He says they would be very different from the little tides which the small mass of the moon raises in our oceans. An immense tidal wave must have traveled over the surface of the sun, at last forming a mountain so high that we can hardly imagine it. And as the cause of that disturbance, that is the other star, came nearer and nearer, the mountain would rise higher and higher. And before the second star began to move away again, its tidal pull had become so powerful that this mountain was torn to pieces and threw off small parts of itself into space. So girls, you see the huge tidal mountain which was formed, it was not able to go back when the second star actually started moving away. So the pull of that star combined with the huge size of this mountain made this mountain break into small pieces, and these small pieces have been going around the sun ever since. They are the planets, great and small, of which our earth is one. The sun and the other stars we see in the sky are all extremely hot, far too hot for life to exist on them. So also no doubt were the pieces of the sun when they were first thrown off. Gradually they became cooler until now they have very little heat of their own left, their warmth coming almost entirely from the radiation which the sun pours down on them. In course of time, one of these cooling pieces gave birth to life. I hope you're getting, he's talking about earth. We don't know how, when or why this happened. So girls, the writer is actually not going into the details about the origin of life on earth, right? He doesn't want to actually indulge in that topic. He simply says that, okay, fine, we believe that it happened, right? So he says we don't know how, when or why this happened. It started in simple organisms whose living power consisted chiefly in their being able to reproduce themselves before dying. But from these from these simple beginnings came a stream of life which, growing ever more and more complex, has in the end produced beings whose lives are largely centered in their feelings and ambitions, their sense of beauty, and the religions in which lie their highest hopes and noblest desires. So girls, I hope the science students can see that the writer is actually in a way talking, or rather he is actually talking in light of Darwin's theory of evolution, in which he believed that life started with simple organisms, and with the passage of time it grew into complex beings, and at the end of the day, human beings, the best form was created. Although we cannot speak with any certainty, it seems most likely, most probable, that the human race came into existence in some such way as this. Now, standing on our little grain of sand, we try to discover the nature and purpose of the universe which surrounds our home in space and time. He's talking about the ever on rise quest of man, desire of man to learn more and more about space. And then he says that when we try to do it, our first feeling is something like fear, because we find the universe frightening. And there are many reasons he gives to it. I like you to give to number them and learn them by heart, because such like questions, when they come, you are to come up with solid points. Don't be talking about like no rigmarole rule is accepted. So just come for learning them by heart. The first thing he says, we find it frightening because of its immense distances which we don't understand. Means these distances are actually beyond our imagination. Then it is frightening because of the stretches of time so great that we cannot imagine them. Girls, now these stretches of time, basically when we talk about traveling in space and in intercontinental traveling and things like that, we talk about this journey, this distance, it is measured with the speed of light. So if with the speed of light one travels, this is what's going to happen, this is the time which is going to be taken. So the time required to move to your nearest planet may be so very long that no one can travel. Man doesn't have that long a life, he's going to expire on the way. And these distances make the whole human history so very small in comparison. According to our understanding, human history is something like perhaps today we are in 2020, so perhaps it is like 4,000 years, okay, 5, 10, whatever. But the distances which are required, the traveling which is required to be done is much, much more than that, and the whole human history looks small in comparison to these distances. Then the universe is frightening because of our extreme loneliness and because of the littleness of our home in space. Start. So the writer says that this universe is frightening because of our extreme loneliness. Loneliness because in the whole universe, as long as the knowledge of man is concerned till now, the authentic knowledge of man is concerned, we know that Earth is the only planet which has God, where life is actually thriving. Life of the sort we know, that is these animals and man and things of the sort. Because of the littleness of our home in space, right? And then millionth of and then the last thing, it is frightening because of the littleness of our home in space, that is the little size of this Earth and the universe, as it is a millionth part of a grain of sand out of all the sea sands in the world. But above all else, we find the universe frightening because we cannot find any sign that life like our own exists anywhere in it except on the Earth. Right, as I've just talked to you, that life of the type we are used to, we know about, that is not, no evidence is there. Till date, no evidence is there that this sort of life is present there. Indeed, for the most part, empty space is so cold that all life in it would be frozen. So as you move away from sun, the empty space is so cold that anything would be frozen. Now, and when it comes to the matter, most of the matter in space is so hot as to make life on it impossible. So matter, girls, is there in the form of stars, and the stars, as I've talked about before as well, they are burning bodies of fire. So life does not seem to have any part in the plan of the universe. Basically, he says that it seems as if life was not a part of this plan, which was responsible for making this universe, which produced our planetary system as well. Calculation shows that there can be only very few such systems in space. Such systems, that is the system like ours. Yet so far as we can see, life of the kind we know on Earth can exist only on planets like the Earth. It needs suitable physical conditions for its appearance, the most important of which is the temperature at which substances can exist in a liquid state. So you're well aware that there are many requirements, like air is required, oxygen is required, sunlight is required, but most of all, a moderate temperature at which life can exist and things can actually exist in a liquid state. Now the stars themselves are far too hot for this because as we have talked about it twice before, that everything, they're burning bodies of fire, everything going near them is going to burn itself. We may think of them as a collection of fires scattered through space, providing warmth in surroundings where the temperature is at some 4 degrees above absolute zero. So absolute zero, science students must be very well aware of it. It is minus 273.16 degrees Celsius, right? Or 0 Kelvin. So that, you see, absolute zero, learn it by heart, that is good enough over here. So that is about 484 degrees of frost on the Fahrenheit scale. So in the immense stretches of space beyond the Milky Way, right? Milky Way, you can go for like a bit of like Google search as well. You're going to get pictures as well. So Milky Way is this galaxy thing. No? So here stars are there. So beyond it, where stars are at very, very, you see, these Milky Way is a cluster having you see stars in collection moving together, and beyond it, it is so very cold that you can hardly imagine. Now away from the fires, this is like there is this unimaginable cold of hundreds of degrees of frost, and close up to them there is a temperature of thousands of degrees at which all solids melt and all liquids boil. So life can exist only in a narrow belt surrounding each of these fires at a certain distance where the temperature is neither too hot nor too cold. Outside these belts, that is away from these belts, life would be frozen, and inside it would be burnt up because it's far too hot. So girls, you can well imagine that around these bodies of fires, the temperature range is such that near the fires, near the stars, it is very hot. Away from stars, it is very cold. So at a middle distance, right, in the mid of them, there is a belt, right, and there is a belt around each of them where temperature is moderate. So in that moderate belt, if you see planet like ours is there, life can be possible. A rough calculation shows that all such temperature belts within which life is possible, all added together, make up less than 1,000 millionth part of the whole of space. First of all, they make a very little part of the whole of space, and even inside them, life must be very rare. Why? The reason is that it is extremely unusual for stars to throw off planets as our sun has done as we said, it was some 2,000 million years ago. Probably only one star in 100,000 has a planet. So girls, these figures are very important. They can come in MCQ, so you have to learn them very carefully. So the writer says probably only one star in 100,000 has a planet going around it at the right distance for life to be possible on it. So girls, this lesson by Sir James Jeans, he was a cosmologist, he was a very impressive fellow, and he was sort of like completely dedicated to this research about you see cosmos, about universe, and you see a lot of knowledge has come to us today because of his researches. So he has talked at length about you see his knowledge of the huge size of the planets, as you saw in the first paragraph, then the big distances between the stars, then he talked about the rare event which took place some 2,000 million years ago. Then he talked about the formation of the solar system, you see the presence of life, the start of life on one of the planets, that is Earth. And then he talked about the reasons why you see this universe tends to be frightening. And then he talks about the possibility of life somewhere else in the universe. And he concludes by saying that this possibility is almost non-existent. So girls, after having gone through the chapter, I hope you are clear with the details, and these questions and answers, you're going to go through them. You have got the notes with you, so if you are faced with any problem, you can just intimate. Thank you girls.